What is going on, everyone? Adam Gellman here with another title match here on Wrestling Trading Cards Network. Really excited to get everybody on here again and do some discussions around wrestling cards. One of my favorite subjects, and obviously why you guys are tuning in here. Got three awesome guests for a roundtable tonight on some of this discussions around chase cards in WWE, specifically with a case study around some of these impeccable number cards, Lita 101, and then a few other things we'll talk about. Let me give a chance to introduce our panel here. We've got Benjamin Johnson, we've got Ryan Schear, and we've got a new voice in the chat here. His name is Brian Nguyen, and he is going to be talking to us about his set collection of some of the cards that are really relevant here as the market's been exploding. So, Ben, you want to introduce yourself and say hello, where we can find you online?
I'm Ben. I stay underground.
You stay underground. It was a popular voice last time we did this. Ben's a big eBay seller, so really good to have him on again. Ryan, you want to say hello?
Hello, everybody. Back again. Ryan Schear, Macho Madness. That's Slim Jim Madness on Twitter. Want to apologize in advance if my head is too shiny tonight, but I'm happy to be here. It's going to be a fun topic.
Awesome. And Brian, my man, new voice in the crowd. Here's your chance to get center stage on the spotlight. How you doing, my friend?
Doing well. Thanks for having me. Brian, I am on Instagram at @BeReal_cards. Mostly do basketball, but I follow wrestling ever since I was a kid. And thanks for having me on. I'll speak more to the set later, but it was just something that kind of gravitated towards me because I love set chasing. I do set building in basketball, and with wrestling, it was just a common sense to connect something that I love for set collecting and wrestling all at once. So thanks for having me, and look forward to being part of this discussion.
Yeah, I always love having new voices on, and it's something that I think it really does add a lot of perspective to have somebody that's really sort of in the weeds with this. Brian, just because you're kind of the new guy to the stream here, tell me a little bit about how you got involved with this particular set. Like, what drew you to this one specifically over other wrestling sets, considering your background's mostly basketball?
So I started collecting. I collected as a kid, right? And then I, grew up, found girls, went to college, and then my interest, went elsewhere.
Right.
As you do.
Exactly.
Then I kind of fell back into the hobby in 2016. And I think you kind of alluded to this maybe in our conversation or in a tweet somewhere, Adam. Impeccable came out, or maybe it was in a blog post, I'm sorry. Impeccable came out, first year product was 2016. That was its inaugural year for basketball. And there was one card from there that I wanted. And I'm from the Bay Area. So I'm a big Warriors fan. So Steph Curry has a card on there that for the first time I've ever, since I rejoined the hobby in a way, all these cards I saw were just numbered to 99, numbered to 199, 49, some weird number that all the cards were like the same, right? It was cool. After collecting for a while, you're like, all right, it gets kind of mundane. So Impeccable, what they did was they had special serialized numbers specific to the player, right? And Steph has his career high in three-pointers is 13. So they have a card called Impeccable Stats, which is what the subsequent years really built off of. Each player or athlete would have a card commemorating their achievement, whether it was points, rebounds, threes made. And so these were specific to each player, right? So I was fortunate enough to hit this card. This is a out of 13 stuff.
Oh, wow.
Dude,
so pretty rare
That's
card.
incredible. Huge.
And thank you. And the history behind that is Curry has a lot of super collectors, right? And I decided to just make the jump. Will I really enjoy the hobby if I just, bought the Prism parallels at 99 or 49 or 125, whatever? Or am I willing to make a leap toward the more mid high end stuff that really caught my eye? And Impeccable was a set that did it for me. And so I really enjoyed that each player athlete had their own special numbering and card that really highlighted their career achievement. And so I've bought pretty much every Steph card for the next 5 years that Steph was in Impeccable, or at least I've tried. So I'm missing one, but anything that has like these big numbers on it, the foil, the rainbow, it was just brand new. It was something different that sets from Panini didn't have at the time, right? And so, fast forward 6 years later, I'm still following wrestling. I love it, talking with my buddies all the time, but I never really got into collecting wrestling cards. And that was mostly because collecting basketball is very competitive as it is, right?
Yeah.
And then I saw, they did Prism. I ripped like maybe 4 or 5 boxes of that. That was, that was great. But Impeccable. Now I was reading through the set list, and I like the championships, the WrestleMania, and the championship debuts. Those are all great. I thought all of them were great, but for the ease of my wallet, right, you want to pick like one of them to go for. And so, I'm not bashing on the other WrestleMania or the championship sets, only because, Brock Lesnar is likely going to get another title run, right? So that number of championships at 10 will probably be 11 or 12 or 13 when it's all said and done. So for me as a collector, I don't want to hold something that's, number to 10 if there's a chance that it could change later on down the line. Only for the active stars, not just for the obviously the Hall of Famers, right? And that goes the same for the WrestleMania, number 2. Like Rollins or someone will have more WrestleManias in their career in the next few years. That's no question about it. So for me, I wanted to look for something that was a little bit more permanent for wrestling, because I don't have any other wrestling sets, and something that would be more of a challenge. So the championship debuts there were 30 cards in the set. It's about 10 cards more than the other foiled numbered sets. Presented more of a challenge because Brock is number to 2, Lita's number to 1, and you had a bunch of other low numbered ones, Edge to 6, I think Orton's to 4. So those things, as a collector, and I don't call myself like a flipper or anything, because I don't. I mostly buy. If you haven't noticed, I just buy, and I have stuff for my collection. That presented a scalable mountain for me to try to climb. And being realistic about it, I don't believe I was going to finish the set or the master set, because getting everything, including the 101, that's tough, right? And I didn't know what the wrestling market looked like. I'm sure you guys can elaborate that for me, like as part of this discussion. But I just thought, what, I'm just going to go for it. I'll be competitive with any auction just to try to get it out the way. I think I have a lot of the low numbered ones already. But this set in particular, because it was the most challenging, it felt like, and it also presented the most, the numbering would stay consistent no matter what year, right? Like, you're not going to change the year that Edge won the championship, right? That's 06, that's it. Or Orton in 04, that's it. So you can't change the numbering or the history of those events. So that kind of called me to the set, and I think the design's just beautiful. The foil on the number, I think I'll show the Edge here. I have the Edge, because I don't think that one's been on eBay or really brought up yet. But the 06 That's is cool. Really sweet. And yeah, so I mean, that's what kind of gravitated me towards this set, is my history with the set from basketball, and kind of it just aligned with my interest and love for wrestling, right? So yeah, and that in a nutshell, I guess. And I know that was like a quick soapbox spiel, but that's why I gravitated towards this set.
And how many did you got so far? I think you mentioned that when we were sort of getting ramped up here, but just so everybody says, what are you at right now for total number?
I'm 18 out of the 30. I got my little Google Sheets. I track it every single time I win an eBay sale or buy off Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. I hope to have 20, but I think I missed out on Kelly over the past weekend because I was watching my kid. So
gotcha.
Life gets in the way of these things,
Yeah, no, that's an accomplishment, though. I mean, you've gotten some of the really low numbered ones, and I think it's sort of you mentioned kind of you weren't familiar with the market here. Let's open this up to the group here. Like, as we're looking at this set, as we're looking at some of the first real sort of chase cards in the Panini era, what do you guys like? Let's start with Ryan. Like, where do you see kind of the maturity level of this market right now? Do you feel like it's in a place where it can support some of these chase elements, or are you thinking like this is still a little bit of a ways to go as we're sort of building into the Panini era here?
I think that there has to be more education as to how Panini configures their products. This is not Topps from 2 years ago. It just isn't. Panini does this. Panini super low number stuff. They super short print stuff. They've been doing it for years. They create a chase element that people like Brian pursue. He's not the only one going after this set. And there's only so many cards to go around. And now that we've got the Lita on the market, and hopefully, I really hope that it makes its way back to the market. You know, it'll obviously be an inflated price from what it sold for, but I hope it does so that a set collector like Brian can get a chance at getting that card. But I think that wrestling collectors need to be more open-minded as to what Panini is bringing to the market, because this is how it is now. And we've been saying this for a couple of videos. This is how it is now. Panini is all about the chase. They're about high dollar chases. They like the print that the 101 prisms bring. They like that. That's what they pursue. That's their high. So the people who are going to stay in this market and collect new products need to be more open-minded about how they're configured, what they're bringing to the table, how much they're going to cost, who's going to pursue them, why they're going to pursue them, and be more open-minded. That's all I can tell you. You got to be more open-minded. You got to understand what we're dealing with now.
Yeah, it makes sense. Ben, what are your thoughts?
I got a second Macho there. I think he's dead on. It alludes to wrestling collectors have kind of wholesale shut down these SSPs that Panini likes to roll out, the inserts and whatnot, downtown, stuff like that. Wrestling collectors traditionally have not liked that stuff. Recent example would be Topps Heritage last year. They had those one per case variations. I think Sasha.
Oh yeah, the animals. Yeah,
like the
snake
dollar
and
dollar
yeah.
wolf or whatever. And you know, for like a week, those were hot, and then you could find them for $10. And you know, Panini loves to do that stuff, and they've got probably 20 different kinds outside of the downtown and the all the
Kaboom
big ones.
and everything.
Boom, yeah, which
Yeah.
are coming. I guarantee you there'll be at least one of them in Chronicles, if not two. But Panini has figured out a way to manufacture value in their boxes without spending extra dollars, which I think is genius. Topps should have done that a long time ago. Any product Panini puts Kaboom in, it inflates the box price.
100%.
And it
100%.
costs them literally 2 cents to make it. It doesn't cost them autograph or whatever. I'm going off on a tangent if we're talking about chase cards, but
no, it's
but
relevant.
you're 100%
completely relevant.
correct. You're 100% correct. Why else would a Kaboom, which is basically a picture with like starburst behind it, it's the same. They're almost the same as the stuff you would find in Revolution, but because it's
Correct.
a manufactured scarcity, the market has proven that these cards are desirable by enough people to force the value. If nobody cared, nobody would buy them. It'd be like the variations from Heritage you were talking about.
but
the fact that it's Kaboom, the fact that it's downtown, and you're absolutely right, they are coming. They are 100% coming. We don't have a product yet, but Chronicles is going to have something in it other than National Treasures. These cards will be hot, and they will be sought after by non-wrestling collectors.
And that was
Straight
my
up.
point. Yeah, that was my point. The traditional wrestling collectors that I've seen over the last 5 or 6 years have shunned that. But now that you got people like Brian coming in from basketball and many, many others that I've talked to over the years, they collect that stuff, and they're going to run these prices up on these cards. And your traditional wrestling collectors, why am I paying $500 for a card that doesn't have an autograph or a relic on it? They think that's nuts. And
that's a good point.
Get squashed like a bug in the end. But
I think here's the thing though, Ben. Like, I think you have people like me too, who I came from football. I had a lot of experience in baseball. Like, I know how that market works too, and I see what the Kabooms do in different products. And the thing is, like, I want those cards too. I'm a huge wrestling collector. That's now all I chase. But because I've had experience other places, the first card I wanted from Prism was a Color Blast, right? The first thing I wanted from Prism was a gold. Like the second thing I wanted was the gold. Like I wanted to get these iconic hobby things. And I'm sure, Brian, you've had experience with this too. Like as you have gone through some of these crossover elements, as you were experiencing Wrestling Prism for the first time, or you were experiencing some of these other products like Impeccable, you're trying to find that overlap. You're trying to find those places in sports that also are now part of this wrestling hobby. Do you agree?
And I don't know. It's what Ben said is spot on. And I couldn't really. So I collect like everything, and what I've seen in wrestling ever since Prism came out was in Facebook groups. A lot of folks were upset that some of the boxes went, for as much as they did, or the color blast sold as much as they did. And from a basketball perspective, I understood it because I saw it in basketball. People were upset paying these astronomical prices because the market shifted very quickly and it didn't enable them to either adapt or catch up in time to get the cards that they wanted, right? So you had to pay a little bit extra for what you wanted. And for me, like when I dove into the Impeccable stuff, I was used to paying those prices because it's basketball's competitive. So, I had a number in mind and, I would like either like 1.5 exit or 2 exit just to make sure I got the card in mind. And, I think wrestling Panini will release a lot of sets and a lot of chases that people will want. That's just going to be it. And the sooner that folks or collectors kind of accept that, or really just admit that that's where the hobby's at, that there's just going to be cards that people want outside of wrestling, outside of wrestling collectors, I mean, it might make it a little bit easier to understand the price that's pretty much, going upwards. And I know Prism has fallen. That's fair. And I think a lot of these Impeccable sets will maybe over the course of time dip a little bit as well. But, Panini releases expensive products. That's their thing. And you're not going to pay like, $500 a box if, your best return is going to be like $100. So these cards will have some value and people will be competitive towards it just because the cost of the box is so much. So
yeah, no, that's a great point, and it's great context too. Like I think that's what we've sort of run into, is that the market drastically changed as soon as the Panini announcement was made, which was like November-ish. I had sort of previewed it a little early because I'd gotten some rumor mill stuff. The second that hit, you had people coming into this hobby. You had really high-end collectors looking to start sort of building ahead of the boom. We saw people, even like Ben, to a degree, was trying to take advantage of a lot of those situations because for the first time in wrestling, no, I mean, it's not a bad thing. I mean, it's just natural. Like for the first time in wrestling. Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. For the first time in wrestling. Yeah, for the first time in wrestling, you're seeing people from other sports come in, drive up prices on cards that they like and things that they want. Those are traditionally going to be shiny cards. They're going to be the chase cards. They're going to be the higher end stuff. They're not going to go after like the garbage autographs. They're not going to go after a lot of the unnumbered stuff that's readily available. They will go after rookie cards. They will go after high end, high grade stuff. They will go after shiny. They'll go after these chase cards. And it drove up a lot of price to a point where people weren't expecting that to happen, despite the fact that it was like 2 years into the boom by that point. So like, we're like, here's people like Ryan and I who are saying from loudly from every rooftop and mountaintop, hey, this is coming. Hey, this is coming. Hey, this is coming. And then when it comes, people are like, I didn't know this. How did this happen? Like it was crazy. So, I mean, we saw just a tremendous influx of collectors come in and a tremendous influx of new blood into a wrestling hobby that was a dark corner of the universe. Ben, you had a lot of experience with that. You had a lot of people sort of coming to you looking for stuff that you had in your store. Tell me a little bit about your experience.
Well, I might as well just get out of the way. About 18 to 24 months ago, I'm always looking at where's the edge in the hobby, because as somebody who does this for a living and I rely on this to put food on the table for my kids, and I'm unapologetic about it. I buy to resell. If I'm buying singles, I expect to make X% of profit on them. Sometimes it's a lot more, sometimes it's less, but So I was sitting back looking for, you know, an edge in some segment, and I looked at superfractors in WWE. They were absolutely dirt cheap. You could buy some of them for $30, $40, $50, one-on-one superfractor autos for $100. And I said, this just isn't right. And so I just went on a buying spree, and I bought every one I could get.
Brian just
what
sat
year was
up.
that?
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
What year was that?
This would have been 18 to 24 months ago.
So it was
I managed to procure the Alexa Bliss Superfractor Rookie Auto, which, I mean, say what you want about Alexa Bliss, but Topps Chrome has very little rookie card Superfractor autos in WWE. And that's one of them. And I was able to procure that out of a dark collection that had never seen the light of eBay. So that was pretty cool. But a lot of people were willing to part with them. And then they got popular because I was able to sell a few of them. And then all of a sudden the price starts going up. Then somebody pays $1,000 for
FOMO
one.
starts.
Everybody's getting pissed off. Well, why is, I think Shotzi was like $2,000. And somebody just snap bought it as soon as it went on eBay, and all hell breaks loose and people are getting mad, cussing me out. And like I said, I'm unapologetically trying to put food on the table. If they hate me for that, that's great. But
this culture and this culture just doesn't support that. Like, that's the real key here, is that for a long time there really wasn't a lot of money to be made with wrestling cards. So there wasn't a lot of people coming in to flip. Now there's a lot of us who do a lot of selling, right? Even I was selling a ton of cards. I'd rip a case, sell the cards I didn't want because I only collect one person. So like there was a lot of sales going down. But you know, people didn't like people like you coming in, creating a market, building that market, even though it's happened so many times, you know, whether it's the Wrestling All-Stars, that is the most controversial subject that you can go after. You're building markets, you're exploiting the people who want to enter that market and building a barrier to entry, which raises costs. Like, that's all going to be a really challenging thing for people to understand, especially in a new market like this, where it's finally hitting the boom, the superfractors take off, and it's the same type of card that is popular in other sports, right? It's the same shiny stuff. It's the same things that most sort of collectors are gravitating towards. So let's take this a step further now. Like, let's go a little bit further into this. Like, as the market matures and as these chase cards become more and more likely to hit high numbers, we saw, you know, Brian was able to secure the Brock Lesnar at a really, really expensive price. When you compare it to other Brock Lesnar cards, people were like, there's no way that this is a real sale, blah, 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 blah. Brian comes on and owns it like a boss. And he's like, no, I bought this because Steph Curry, like, his super collection, I'm sure cost him a pretty penny. Brock Lesnar is probably pennies on the dollar for that cost. And he's like, this is a great set. I'm chasing the set and I'm going for it. When we all see the Lita come on the market and then sell for $1,000, which is less than half of what Brian paid for the out of two, like, no one could understand why we were sounding the alarm that is a terrible situation for a seller who probably missed out on a small used Honda. So like, when you guys saw that auction go up, and Brian, you're the set collector here, you saw that was the grail, that was the 101, and you see it sell for $1,000 on a best offer 30 seconds after it's listed. What's your thought process? What's going through your mind?
I mean, so I'm pretty rational as a person. I'd like to think, at least, right? So I mean, the fact that it popped up on eBay was great. And I'm not one of those people that just message people. If they put out an auction, I'm gonna let it go to auction. I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna stalk the hell out of it, though. You know,
Right.
but I don't. You know, I try my best. I don't like to bother the seller. That's not me, right?
Right.
I should have, though, because what happened was, as soon as they put that up, and I think there was one bid on it, it was active. And then it got taken down, right? And so I messaged the seller immediately. I said, you know, are you going to relist this? Was there an error in the listing or something? You know, I'm chasing the set. I know there are a handful of other people are also, and I think it would be a great opportunity for the market, because the community's looking at it, right? And they just said, nope, sold. And then I said, you know, can I ask for how much? Do you have any, you know, extra insight? I don't know if I sent you the screenshot of my message. Maybe I sent it to somebody else.
I think you did, yeah.
Yeah, and he just, or the seller just said, nope. The person contacted me. It was just, it's going to a nice PC. I'm happy, it's going to a good home, and that's all there is to it. And I actually told him, like, I hope you sold it for a really pretty penny, because you could, it's the one card that's needed for the whole master set. And it just seemed like they were fine with letting it go. Whoever talked to them had a hell of a sales pitch, and I guess they got it for $1,000, and that's fine, right? I mean, for me as a collector, if I was able to get it, great. But if not, I'm still going to continue the chase for the rest of the other stuff, because why not? I'm in too deep, but sometimes for the sellers, it ain't about the money, I guess. If they actually believe that the buyer was a good person, if I made them happy, I mean, who am I to judge, I guess. But hopefully, like Ryan said, if it comes back on the market, I'll have my eyes on it again, and I'll make a competitive bid. But I was ready. I was willing to go maybe like 3x, 3.5x the sold price.
Yeah.
Just to get that set. Maybe 4, depending on how much I love my family during Christmas. And so
that's
just
good,
one of those
man.
things.
I
mean, here's the thing as a collector. For me, when I chase sets, I fully understand there will be, this isn't the first time that I didn't get a card I want. It won't be the last time, right? So, I mean, that mindset.
We've all been there.
In the hobby, yeah, so we've all been there. It's the same exact thing, and we see it with every single card, excuse me. So, it sucks, but hopefully it comes back on the market, and, the collectors out there, including myself, will make a play on it.
Yeah, it's great perspective, and I'm happy to hear that. Right, I'm happy to hear that this is a process you went through, and you were sort of thinking about it the way we were all thinking about it. Is like, man, this really went for a lot less than I expected it was going to. And like you mentioned in your screenshot that you sent me, in the message that you said, like, this would have been really good for the community to see this card go for $5,000, whatever it might have been.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that we didn't get to see kind of what the limit was. Like, that was what I was excited about, because obviously I'm not in on this card. I have my Becky Lynch from that set, but like, I'm not in on this card. I wanted to see what the top of the mountain looked like, because Brock was a great price. I thought that set a lot of really good things in motion. There was an Undertaker one that sold but didn't sell. But this card could have really set a lot of really good things in motion for some of these others. And I was unfortunate we didn't get to see that. But you brought up a really good point, right? You said, like, this could go to a PC. This could go to a collector who loves Lita or who else. Like, that's not a bad thing to happen.
So
hopefully that. What was that?
So what? I would be sick to my stomach if I was chasing that set and that card sold for $1,000.
Well, don't get me wrong. I'm very disappointed.
Yes. Oh yeah, no, definitely.
You're a better man. You're a better man than me, because this smacks of one of two things to me. One is this person saw a 101 Lita autograph and maybe did a little bit of market research and saw that her autographs don't go for all that much, and he was like, but I've never heard of a seller taking less than the opening bid. The opening bid was like $10.99 or $11.99.
That was weird.
So I could see if they offered $1,500 and he took it. I could see that. Mm-hmm. But to offer $1,000, and so it smacks to me that the seller, again, why would you get involved with a product that you don't know anything about?
Yeah, I looked at at all of his sales, and I think that was the only WWE card he had listed. He mainly did football and basketball and mostly low-end stuff, other than like one flawless Tua card that he had. So I don't think that he had the knowledge of what that card truly was. I think he thought it was good, but not good in the terms of why we're doing this video in the first place.
Yeah.
Somebody
been there too. Yeah, I've been there too. Like, I remember going back to when I was in college, I liked to buy old records. And one of the records that one of the bands I really liked was Tool. And this was with my angry college phase. And I bought an album at a record shop, and I kept it sealed. I put it on eBay, and I was like trying to move all the crap out of my parents' house when I went and, sort of got my own place. and I sold this record. I was like, I gotta sell all my records. Throw this one up for $100. It's sold in like 30 seconds. Somebody messaged me. He's like, I'll give you $1,500 for that. And I'm just like, I just didn't know. And so what I said is like, no, it was going to a good place. He had the same thing that like Brian's saying, because I didn't want to lose the face of kind of what just happened with what I experienced. And I think that this speaks to a lot of what Ryan had said. Like, it does seem like the guy didn't know what he had, but he put it up for auction with the right starting bid. And I mentioned this in one of my videos that like this could have gone to a break, right? Somebody just buys the one slot, gets the one slot in a random number slot, or buys Lita for whatever reason because she's cheap. Yeah. So I mean, like,
I think that's what happened.
This could I said like this could happen, right? It could go to somebody who doesn't know what they have. They put it up because Lita doesn't sell very well. They put it up for a cheap price. But this guy listed it with the right starting bid. Like, that's where I would expect the starting bid to be. You let it run, goes for 7 days, sells for a ton of money. But he took $9.99. Like, I don't get that.
I feel like if this guy truly did not know what he had, he would have listed it for like $300 or $400. So I'm hoping there was almost like a cash trade done. Like he's getting something else.
Side deal.
Yeah, like he's getting something else on top of the $1,000. Maybe the buyer is local, and we're all just kind of throwing it out there. I can't for the life of me understand. You have enough wherewithal to start the bid at $1,200, right? So you have something. But then to accept $200 less than the starting bid, if he had waited 5 more minutes, somebody would have bid the opening bid.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we're off and running.
Right. And you mentioned kind of like this guy may not have known not to let it run. Like he's like, oh, I'm in for this slot at $100 or whatever it was. Brian, you said this is probably a bid or probably a card coming out of a break. I'm in $100. Getting 1,000 is 10x my money. Like, why wouldn't I take that? You know, I don't know. It's just, it's really unfortunate because, like I said, we didn't get to see where the top of the market is. And for a lot of us that are cheerleaders for the WWE market, want to see things get big. Like, this was a big card. But this is not the first time this has happened. This is probably one of the second or third, if not, and that's only the ones that are high profile. We saw a Rock Gold Prism sell the first week of Prism at $7,500 when it's probably it just recently traded at 33,000. So like, this isn't the first time this has happened. Do you think that this is something that will change as the market matures, or do you think we're going to continue to see people who just aren't the type getting these hands on these cards? What has been your experience, Ben, or Brian, in other sports as you guys have sort of bought and sold some of these high end cards? Like, you know, does this change with market maturity? Is this always going to be the case that there's always somebody out there who just doesn't know what they've got?
I mean, yeah, you've got people that buy cards and all the time that have no idea what they're doing, and it's called gambling. You walk into a card shop and you gamble. I am one of the world's worst. I will go in there and rip cases of pure shit, not expecting anything but a cheap 2-second thrill of hitting something. I'll rip racing. I don't care. But, you know, and people like me that will do that will hit something that they don't know anything about and list it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree. I don't know if you guys are in like the Facebook groups, right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of them. There's a bunch of like Facebook breakers, as you know, on Instagram, Facebook, whatever. And, you know, to Ben's point, it is gambling. These guys, they get allocated WWE Impeccable from their distributors. They have to take it so they can get other products. Ben, I'm sure you can attest to that.
Yes.
Yep. Their target audience, probably not WWE fans, probably not wrestling fans, but they will help the room out because the breakers need to move the product, right? So they'll put it up, serial break, cheap, $100, full case. Someone hits something big, but they don't know what it is, right? It could be that 101 Lita was just hitting a random break, and whoever owns it just needs to find a way to recoup their money, or would just be happy with $1,000, not knowing that a WWE community of, collectors exists outside of, their own little world. So this type of stuff happens often. And I see it in Facebook groups all the time where someone buys into a spot. They have no idea what they're doing, but they're just gambling for the sake of gambling. And I feel like, with the Lita in particular, the seller maybe had a vague idea because of Impeccable's kind of legacy. It's a high-end product, first year WWE. I'll put it up for some number. And if someone gives me something that I'm happy with, I will take it without any knowledge or background of the previous sales from the set or any of the other Impeccable Number sets, because, it's a Lita 101. Why would I turn down $1,000 for a Lita 101?
Well,
I mean,
and just if he's only got that one card listed, that's probably what happened.
Yeah, and someone did a check, right? I think that was the only wrestling card he had listed.
Yeah.
It seems likely that he just didn't care. And maybe that's as simple as that. He just didn't care and didn't know that there were a slew of collectors that were after the card. I tried to tell him my DMs, though. I messaged him. I said, a lot of people have their eyes on this, all right? It could go for a pretty penny. And he just said, it's going to a good home and I already packaged and shipped. I'm like, that was fast. Okay. So there you go.
The only thing I found funny was that all of his other auctions started at 99 cents, yet that one was started at what, $11.99?
Yeah, it's so weird.
Something doesn't add up, but we can speculate all we want.
And we're never gonna get the full story. But that's the whole thing.
It's fun to speculate though, because
it really
why
is.
did he put it out for
$1,200? Really is.
I don't get it, but maybe someone told him, maybe someone just said that's a big card. Put it up for $1,000, and if you get biters, let it ride. But if you get an offer, take it. Maybe someone just told him that. Whoever, hit him the card. Maybe he could just use that. I don't know.
So I have a similar story to that kind of mindset. When I bought my '86 Jordan, that turned out to be a 10. I paid $1,000 for it, and then I was walking over to PSA with my buddy who knew the guy I bought it from, and I said, this card's really nice. I can't believe that he sold it. And $1,000 is what they were going for back in 2018 Raw. And I go, I feel like you probably could have got me for a little bit more. And he goes, yeah, but he paid 40 cents for that pack back in 1986, and you just gave him $1,000.
Right, exactly.
And I kind of took a step. I was like, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense that he bought that card for 10 cards in the pack. He paid 4 cents for that card. I just gave him $1,000 for it, and he was happy as shit.
People's minds are wired differently. Some people think about getting max dollars. Some people look at the long-term range of what they're making and don't care. So it's different for each person.
So let's talk about the buyer a little bit here. Buyers of these deals, right? So you find a card that's mislisted, like. Do you feel like it's survival of the fittest? This guy got a deal, good for him, or what's your take on this? Like overall, like are we saying this guy kind of pulled some shit here, or what are we expecting?
Brian had mentioned that there were several other people collecting the set. Do you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that one of those people collecting the set was not the actual buyer of this card?
I only know because I think there was just some Twitter engagement on Adam's feed. I caught wind of like someone else, going after the set. I only know like maybe 2 other folks on like Facebook that are chasing it. I tried to link them up with the guy that had the Lesnar. I should actually follow up on that one. The other Lesnar got pulled, and I was reaching out to him like, hey, I don't need it because I got the other one, but if you need help, I'll forward a few folks your way. So I don't know if that one got sold yet. So I only know of a handful of people, but it doesn't seem like any of them. Did it get sold?
I think so.
Okay, good. And I, of the handful of people that I knew or saw that were chasing the set, I don't believe any of them mentioned anything about the Lita. So it leads me to think that perhaps whoever went after it is aware of the market, is aware of the chase, and got in at a good price. And like I said, hopefully in a week or 2 weeks or so, we might see it, pop up again. Fingers crossed, at least.
Right, for everybody's sake who's chasing it, right?
Yeah.
I've got a question for Brian. I'm really glad Brian's here tonight because Brian brings legitimacy to this discussion as far as the values of the set, because he is doing the set. And when he says that he would have paid $3 to $4 grand for it, I absolutely believe him. I believe that is a price that not only he would have paid, I believe there was
A
probably
lot of people would have paid that. Yeah.
that would have paid that
I
price.
think I
Not to
I think a lot of
discount,
people.
not to
exactly.
discount
Yeah.
Lita collectors on top of the set collectors. So I made a comment on Twitter that kind of got some flack. I said, Lita is a mid-level superstar. She had a great run with the Hardys. She was very, very upfront when she actively wrestled. So she's a known name. Do you think if this card was Virgil? Seriously, no. I said if this card was Virgil, it would still be a $2,500 plus card.
Absolutely.
I pay for it.
Yeah. I don't think that's a good. If it was Ivar, it would be a $2,000 card.
You
Like
gotta,
I think.
No, you got to hammer home the fact that there's only going to be one master set.
Yeah.
You're going to be the only person in the world that if you complete the set, that's it. You're it. You're at the pinnacle of that particular set. There's no one that can say they have another set of that.
Right.
As a collector, I think for people chasing high-end stuff, that means something. So to your point, if it was Virgil or Ibar or whomever, I mean, yes, they'll still go for a decent amount. And I think a lot of people just can't wrap their heads around.
It doesn't even matter who it is, right? It doesn't even matter.
It doesn't.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't. It's the set. It's all about the set and the chase.
Okay, thank you. Now, I really hope people listen to that from a high-end set collector, because we've been screaming this for the past week. It's not about who's on the card. It is about the set and the chase for the set.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the reason, and this was done on purpose too. So like adding her, because her number on the card is 00. And they made that, you can't make a 00, obviously. That's not possible, but making
Hold
her
on.
the one of
I can see stop doing that.
Hold on a second. So aside from the joking of that, making her the 101 was done on purpose because absolutely Panini knew what they were doing. And the reason that we know that the Panini's doing this is because they've done it so many other times. And I don't think it's fair for us to say like, oh, well, they didn't know what they were getting themselves into. Because I asked that question on Twitter too, and everybody seemed to respond, well, they knew exactly what they're doing. I agree with that 100%. And I think it creates this level of, being the only one. Collectors, and I said this for many, many years, starting in 2010 at least, card companies do not do enough to play on vanity. The vanity that exists within this hobby and being the top of the mountain, being the only person, is one of the primary emotions and characteristics that card company marketing needs to do more of, because they will make a ton more money. And I think this is one of those situations where they know there's going to be one guy who wants to get all of these cards, whether it's one set or four, and we're going to make this one of one, so they're going to have to drive up the price. And I think that's what is the key here. And this is not going to be the last time that this happens. So, like, here's the next question, guys. Here's the next question. How can sellers avoid this? How can people who pull these cards avoid getting taken by the market because they don't know what they have? What are some of the things that you're recommending as a learning experience for those of the people that are watching this call here? Like, what do you think sellers should be doing to avoid getting taken like this? Is this because obviously you don't want to put a card that's out of 99 up for a 7-day auction at the price at the start of a product run, but similarly, you don't want to get undersold. So where does the balance exist? What are you guys doing to prevent this in your own collections?
I'll jump in first. Just post the card on Twitter. That's literally all you need to do is to post the card on Twitter, and you will. So I pulled about maybe a year ago. I bought 3 MLS Chrome soccer blasters, and I pulled a Superfractor subset card of some 16-year-old kid I'd never ever heard of. And I'm like, cool, maybe it's $100. I put it on Twitter. I sold it for $7,000. Okay.
We all do that.
I've never heard of this kid. And you know what? If I put the card on, it took me 30 seconds to post this card and say, what do I have here? And my DMs filled up and I was getting messages. What do you want? You got something good there? And then I started getting messages saying, contact this guy. contact this guy. And it was the same name over and over again, the same name. And that's who bought it. He offered me twice as much as the next offer. He paid. He got the card. I haven't heard since. So just
that's what it's all about.
Just put it on Twitter. You'll get the info you need.
Yep. Ben, you want to go next? How would you avoid, other than what Ryan just said? Are there any other steps looking at comps? Because you run an eBay store, so you have a lot of things that are probably coming through your inventory. I know you rip a lot of things that you don't really know much about. So how do you avoid getting taken by the market here?
And I've been venturing into MLS and weird stuff like that. I do a lot of Star Wars, Garbage Pail Kids, a lot of wrestling. In terms of if you get a really low numbered thing, I would say do your research before you list. Don't just throw it up there first, trying to get a quick buck. If you get something really rare, do some research first. Extensive research, not just on eBay. Look through the news and whatnot. If it's a soccer player, you got a lot to research because they may be 15, 16, 17 years old. Hell, they could be 14, and it's all about potential. Just like in baseball with Bowman, they may be in single A.
Right, it's a great correlation.
20
Yep.
grand, in terms of trying to avoid the quick sale stuff like you saw with the Lita. I think Impeccable is probably the most niche product that will have weird numbering like that. There's not a whole lot of other stuff out there like Impeccable. It kind of stands on its own, and it has crazy set collectors. I've seen it in basketball. I've seen it in football. National Treasures doesn't have anything crazy like that. They did the first off the line stuff, which has sometimes it's numbered to 2 in Flawless. They'll do like a bronze diamond to 2. Some stuff's to like 8. They got the lucky envelopes that are numbered to 8. But Impeccable is the only one where it's completely odd numbering for every card set. And to make one last crazy analogy, if that 101 had been Hulk Hogan or James Ellsworth, I think it would have been the same damn price. I'm being dead serious. I
don't disagree with you.
Well, Panini knew what they were doing with this card. They could have made it out of 100. They could have gone the exact opposite way. And I mean, they made the Stone Cold out of 98. They could have had 100 Lita autographs, and then you're down to, you can have 2 sets because of the Brock. They knew exactly what they're doing. They're going to do it again. It's like Jesse Pinkman. They can't keep getting away with it,
Yes, they can.
Yeah, so they're going to do it again. They want, it's like I said before, they want that high-end chase mentality. That's what they are. That's what they do. They've been doing it for years. So don't think that they didn't know what they were doing. I mean, they knew exactly what they were doing with this card.
Is it a bad thing, though, Ryan? Like, do you think that this is a bad thing that this happened? Because I think that this set has brought back a lot of the vigor that we saw going into some of these Prism collections, that we saw going into the beginning of Select. Some of those things, like, I think this really was an inspiration to a lot of collectors who maybe didn't have the confidence that WWE had the legs to be a market for a while here. Do you think this is a bad thing?
I think it's a bad thing if you're chasing that set. I think it's a great thing if you're on the outside looking in, because
most of us are. Yes,
this is fun to watch, and it doesn't just extend to the roll low number stuff. I am having a hell of a time trying to find the Brutus Beefcake Hall of Fame out of 19. I am having that. I should have had one by now. 4 have been on eBay. 3 of them he signed outside the window, so the autograph wasn't. I want my stuff pristine. I'm not going to pay less for a bad autograph. I will not do it. So the one that was clean, I was getting on a plane and it was at like $66. This is Brutus Beefcake, who's my guy when I was a kid. That was my guy. So I put a bid of like $126 on it, and I'm like, no problem. No problem. I'm going to land, and I'm going to have this card for $88. No, it went for 136 or 144 with like 2 bidders above me. And now I see people, because Adam's been posting a lot of stuff with the set collectors. I've seen 3 more of them with nice autographs. So now I'm like down to like 12, I think. And
yeah,
it's not just, I mean, a Brutus Beefcake autograph. I love the guy. a Bruce Beefcake autograph out of 19 going for over $100 is incredible. That's incredible. It really
It's an
is.
aberration. It's an aberration.
Yeah.
And
I
like
mean,
that's the issue here.
I paid $500 for his only Superfractor autograph, and it was a sticker. And I paid $500 because, as far as I know, it's going to be the only Superfractor autograph. Yeah, Johnny Rods.
Johnny Rods.
This was
Oh,
a
yeah.
$100 card when it first came out. Johnny
Right.
Rods. I
Right.
had to do my research. As a wrestling fan, I had forgotten who this is. I didn't know.
And,
Yeah.
and the other thing, Brian, that you have to be aware of, and you know this, the next Impeccable set, they're going to continue these.
Oh yeah.
I know.
These are
Once
going to become legacy
Panini-
sets.
Yeah, Panini knows what it's doing, to your point. They've done the same thing for basketball, all right? In sports, they have jersey numbered. I don't have the cards in front of me, but
Immaculate
there's
number.
yeah, they're similar too. But the difference with Impeccable is they have the big foils on for their jerseys, right? So, I get the stuff the inaugural year out of 30. And then 2 years later, he has the same freaking card out of 30, but it's in another year. I'm like, crap, I have to get this one too.
Right.
It's the same premise. It's the same, it's the colors change a little bit, slightly, the design format.
It's another Madden.
Panini
It's
knows what it's
another
doing.
year of Madden. You're just
It's
buying a new roster,
exactly.
right?
And they abuse collectors like me because they know that's what we want. I just can't not chase it. And I don't know what other way to describe it, because I feel like all the other collectors are the same. Where it's like, why are you buying the same card if it's a different year? I don't know. I just want it. It completes the set. It's like it's another bat. You complete me. I need it with the other, with the other numbered cards. That's just the only way I can describe it. And Panini takes full advantage of that. They will release. Maybe they'll have a new set next year, but it's gonna be around the same premise, right? It won't be championship debuts, but maybe they'll include tag teams.
There's a lot of numbered based stuff in sports, and WWE is no strangers to things that they could do with numbers. And we still didn't get a Ric Flair championship titles at 16. Like that would have been insane. Like all those other things, but I'm not going to get into that. Not going to get into that because it's a whole different discussion. But let's look at some of the comparable situations here. So Seth Rollins, as we're recording here, is out of 4, selling for almost double what Lita is selling for. Like I don't think that there's any disagreement around the 4 of us that this card was undersold, but I think the chase element of the WWE market still has a lot of room to grow. And I think as we've said a couple of times now in the last few minutes, this is year 1. And I think that's where people are really missing the boat here, is like so many WWE collectors are basing their opinions of what's happening on 1 year when, regardless if Fanatics buys Panini continues down this road, they're going to release more wrestling products with a Panini logo on it or a Fanatics logo on it that'll be very similar to these cards, in my opinion. And I think that this is year 1 of a few. So I can't imagine that the wrestling collectors that are hemming and hawing over Panini's impact to the market right now are really looking at this from a long-term perspective. When we get to year 4 of Prism WWE, are we going to be looking back on this and saying, geez, I can't believe that gold sold for $100 when it should have been 1,000, or that gold was 1,000, it should have been 10,000. Like those are the types of speculative things that I love discussing. And I love having these roundtable discussions around. As we look forward into Impeccable, Brian mentioned, like they're going to do this again. They're going to find some other number. They've done it in every other sport. Like, how does this change year 2, year 3, year 4? How does the perception of the market change as we get into these things? Where do you guys like? We'll say that this is probably going to be one of the final things we'll discuss, just to keep this under a couple of hours like it usually goes. But where do you see this going in the future?
I'll take a first stab at it. I think the collectors will refine their taste, and hopefully the community will, come to accept that, yes, there will be just high-end markets, and some of these cards will sell for more than they're accustomed to. I think it takes time for, a certain community to accept that and adjust. All right. Now, I think collectors that will chase the sets will continue to do so. It will still be competitive every year. Will there be some cool down after, the first month or so, after the product is broken and all the cards get listed? Yeah, probably, but it will still be competitive. I would say I'm likely to chase like something similar to this next year, if similar or if not. I for one like to be consistent in what I collect. Same goes for basketball, and I'm feeling like the same will extend to WWE Impeccable. I feel like this will just be my thing, and so I think a lot of the market will depend on what is released, the design of the overall set, and ultimately folks coming to realize or accept the fact that a James Ellsworth card might be worth like $100 or $200 in a particular set.
Right.
There's, so I just want to emphasize too the point that Ryan was, making is it's all about the set, right? It's about the product. If this was a hideous looking product and the numbers were like tiny or something like that, and it wasn't noticeable, I wouldn't have cared. But they have to design a good product that will make the consumers appreciate it and chase it. That's
Great
number
point.
one, I think, the most important thing. So if they don't do that, then maybe the collectors are out. But because they did a good job on the inaugural set, I don't see any reason why I wouldn't chase something like this in the subsequent years.
Great point. Ben?
I'll go a little bit different direction, but still add on to what Brian said. I'm very pleased of what Panini has actually done. Let's be honest, Prism, for all intents and purposes, was kind of a market flop. It's joked about in all the different message boards and all the different sports. It's an example of something that came out at $1,200 inflated, and now it's what, $250. Since then, they put out Select, which everybody I think agrees was pretty much a home run. It did one thing in particular that I have never seen in a product. It had the full set of 300 was in the hobby, and that's what Select's always been. You got 1 through 100, the basic part, the premier level 100 through 200, and then ringside, octagon side, whatever you want to call it. What Panini did is then they went and put a 301 through 400 in retail only and made them hard as hell to hit. That blew my mind. And Select Retail Wrestling is the only product this year, since retail is finally being able to be seen again, that's actually profitable for flippers and collectors are buying the hell out of it, because to build that master set is damn near impossible. I bought 8 blasters and it hit 1 card out of 301 through 400. So with that being said, I think Select was a home run. NXT was exactly what it was supposed to be. It was a $50 to $60 type product. It did have some on-card autographs, which was awesome. They even brought back Roman, Alexa, people like that to sign on-card. And then Impeccable, I think they hit a home run with that too. Personally, I'm anxious to see what's next. Chronicles used to be the ass crack of the industry. It was a junk product. But in the last couple of years, they've juiced it up. They've added some value to it. And now it's actually a very fun product to open. And it has the top people in each sport or wrestling or whatever you want to have. I'm anxious to see what that checklist looks like. I think, you could open a pack with 4 rock cards in there. But those national treasures, they may have RPAs. I don't know. They may have Braun Breaker.
They will.
But I'm anxious to see those NT patch autos and the crown silhouettes and whatnot. And I'm ready for the high-end product. I want Flawless or Eminence. Eminence is a pipe dream. But
God, that would be awesome.
You're talking to the guy who loves Transcendent. I've broke more Transcendent than anybody. And I want a mega high-end product, and I will go all in.
Isn't Flawless?
Ryan, close us out.
Isn't Flawless?
We haven't gotten confirmation. We did get some level of confirmation on Immaculate that's coming, which is going to have its own level of chase stuff for the moments and for some of the other things. I think that was one of the main keys. Is these sets.
Whatever. Okay.
Yeah, I think Immaculate's on its way. I think we'll probably get some ultra premium set. But yeah, what's your thoughts here on the future, Ryan? Let's wrap this up here.
Well, I think that the people who get on the ground floor are going to be the ones that really do well with this stuff. I think people like Brian, who have started since day one and picked up these cards as soon as they hit, maybe paying a little bit more, maybe paying a little bit less. I think in the long run, he's going to do really well with this stuff, because what's going to happen is these numbered sets like in Impeccable, they're going to build on them, and they're not going to. If they were smart, what they should do is there's 20 cards in the Hall of Fame set, let's say, right, or 30 cards in the Hall of Fame set. Next year, you pick up with card number 31. And you basically force these set collectors to continue collecting this set. If you number it one,
Stop giving them ideas. Stop giving them
Stop
ideas.
giving them ideas.
But that's what they should do. Is next year in 2023 have another 20 or 30 Hall of Fame autographs, different wrestlers, and it's like I said in a previous video. Have some unsigned. Have an Andre, same exact card design, numbered out of 95. Obviously, you can't get it signed, but have that card out of 95 and make 31 through 40 are deceased. You know, Eddie Guerrero is, you know, Macho Man, all those guys. The set collectors, they will collect these sets if they're smart about how they produce them and how they number them. I think I think Chronicles is going to be a fun set. I can't wait for it. I think it's going to be great. I'd like to see a high-end set. Unfortunately, what Panini does is they do get redundant with their signers. They don't tend to, you know, kind of mix it up. Like, are we going to see a Ric Flair signed Panini card? You know, are we going to see, you know, I pick somebody. You know, pick somebody.
They'll get Flair.
I think they will too, and you know, I'm excited for the future, but I've also accepted what the future is going to be, and I think that a lot of collectors who have been in wrestling a long time, they just need to. I mean, you can bitch about it all you want. It's going to happen though. So you can complain about $600 packs and, you know, $1,000 Lita cards and $2,000 Virgil cards or whatever. But this is the new norm. This is the way it is. You know, on one of the videos that Paul and Tony did, you know, Paul was talking about building his select set, and he said, you know, this is so different. The chase is so different for me because usually I'm so used to, you know, I have a dealer who calls me up and says, okay, I've got the new top set, master set, all the inserts, $60, done. And he's got his set. And so now what you're looking at is you're looking at chase, manufactured scarcity, value, but more importantly, you're looking at people coming in from the outside. It's not going to be just the same group.
Scary
of
for a lot of people.
Oh, it's terrifying. And it's almost like a barbarians at the gate kind of scenario where all these people are in this castle who collect wrestling cards, and they all live in harmony in this castle, right? And all of a sudden they look outside and there's torches and battering rams, and these are all the people that want to come in. They all want to come into the castle. And guess what?
Good.
Guess what? They're coming. They're going to come.
Yeah.
It is what it is. So
watch these videos for the analogies of nothing else. Like, I think we have hit it out of the park with these analogies of all of this bullshit that we've been talking about. Listen, I think you make a really good point. I think all of you guys have really hit it on the head. I know we're all going to disagree on a few different things, and a lot of the collectors. I think the one standard that is missing here, and there is one key element that I think wrestling could have above other hobbies, and it just hasn't. And that is the educational element of having a small community that can insulate themselves through education. I don't see it happening. I see bitterness. I see anger. I see a lot of hate on Twitter. I see a lot of crazy stuff go down when in reality they could have been learning. They could have been seeking out some of these things that are out there as benchmarks for what's going to happen. I just haven't seen people flock to those situations. They've tried to sort of blaze their own trail because for so long they've had to do that, right? I talked about it in one of my other videos where I'm saying, like, hey, because the community doesn't have sort of this built-in sort of chase that has happened in the Topps era, they created their own chases. They created super collections amongst themselves. They focused in on things that Topps really wasn't really building sets around. Like, collectors will find ways to collect. And I think the educational element of Panini is still very far off for a lot of these people, to the point where they're actually avoiding it, and it's just hurting everything. And I think the more people that can get in and see the amount of fun that is existing in a lot of these sets, especially ones like Chronicles, the ones like Impeccable, things that, you know, are built around tried and true experiences within the hobby, right? These things are popular for reasons, and those reasons have years behind them of collector loyalty. I mean, Brian mentioned he's been collecting since 2016. That's, you know, that's 6 years of this, and football goes back even further than that. So it's like you have all of these really big concepts that Panini has tested and tested and tested. We know that they're going to be successful, and we've told you guys on these videos so many times, these are what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. It's not just me either. You hate me, that's fine. I get it. A lot of people don't like me, but I've brought on a lot of other people who are telling you the exact same thing. And I think it's really important to seek out that educational element and find a way to get yourself educated. All right.
I want to know
So
one
just to
thing
wrap this
really quickly.
Yeah, Brian.
Before we wrap up too.
Sure.
Before I say, like, I started chasing this set, I didn't follow any wrestling community. You know, I didn't rely on anybody to tell me anything. I just saw it, and I just told myself, I want it. That's what I want. That's the set I want to chase. So for me, I mean, I have, you know, you have experience in buying. I have experience in buying stuff already. So, you know, the knowledge with Impeccable, yada, yada, yada. All right, great. But I didn't reach out to any wrestling collector and asked about Impeccable. I just went out and did it. And to your point, before it's growing. People from outside are coming in. I mean, I would consider myself an outsider as a wrestling card collector. I'm not ingrained in the community in any sense. I maybe it's on the peripheral, but I didn't rely on, you know, anybody to tell me, oh, you should go after the set. I was just on the outside looking in as someone that admired Impeccable as the overall product and just decided to just go for it. And so
that's why we wanted to have you on.
Well, yeah, and like you guys mentioned, collectors will ultimately just collect what they want, and you know, you're gonna get folks, you know, like me who just, oh, you know, that's a pretty looking set, or you know, oh, that's a pretty looking color of that wrestler I used to like. Like if there's a gold Eddie Guerrero prism out there, someone who collects cards remembers, you know, their fond days of cheering for Latino Heat or something. Hey, who knows? If a gold prism of him exists, they might just chase that card and got something else coming in, you know? So as Panini releases more products and breakers break more of this stuff for their audience, you're probably going to get a lot more folks infused in the newer stuff. Same with what happened with me and Impeccable. So yeah, I would just say, you know, get accustomed to new folks coming in. If they ask a question, don't, you know, shove them away, you know, teach them a little bit about what's been going on. Because I had no idea WWE Topps Chrome was a huge thing. I'm super jealous Ben bought an Alexa Bliss Super Fractor for, you know, on the cheap for 24 months ago. That's
it could
great.
be yours.
Yeah. It could be yours.
I've got the whole entire rainbow.
Yeah.
See, that's cool, right? And so it's exposure to that kind of stuff that now that I've bought Impeccable, that I'm going to look for other products. And I think other collectors from other sports will do the same. So, yeah.
I think that's a really good point. And I've mentioned this a couple of times that some of these people that are coming in from the outside, I've developed really great relationships with them. Like people who are experiencing this for the first time, everybody has to start somewhere. I started in wrestling in 2017. People welcomed me with open arms, and now I'm here as a longtime collector of, you know, not as long time as other people on this channel, but I've been in cards for that long. I'm sure a lot of us have been in cards for that long. We're just getting into WWE for the first time. Why are we trying to keep these people away? They can be the next members of our community that are really fun to be around, really knowledgeable and helping a lot of people. I think there's a lot of opportunity to welcome these people in and be able to show them the fun of the wrestling card community, which I've said on a number of occasions is one of the best that's out there still. So overall, great conversation, guys. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I love having these discussions. These are the best things that we do, I think. And it's always fun. Even if nobody watches it, it's still fun to talk to you guys and have a good experience. Do you guys want to let's go around one more time, tell them where you can find each other. Ryan, what's your contact info here? So if people want to yell at you or scream at you, tell you good job, where can they find you?
Oh, come on. Everybody already knows me by now. I'm sure I got some messages just sitting here. So I'm Macho Madness at Slim Jim Madness on Twitter. Look, we don't do these videos with malice in our hearts, guys. We really don't. As much as some people want to say that we're full of shit and we don't know what we're talking about, maybe sometimes we don't, but most of the time we do. And if you listen to us, ask questions, please. We are very approachable. Ask questions. We can help you out with stuff. Please do. But, take the information, educate yourselves, and, just prepare yourself for this new world that we're in.
Excellent. Ben?
Just as one quick add-on to the last thing you said about educating people, Panini is advertising their products on WWE television weekly. Every time they have a new set come out, they're advertising to 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, whoever watches on the internet too. Those people may not have ever collected cards before, but they're coming out to collect. And if you're going to shut people out and not educate them, then that's a fallacy of the collecting community as a whole. That was my last point. You can find me nowhere. If you have a problem with me, bitch it at him.
He's yeah.
Just
exactly.
kidding. No, I don't have a whole large social presence, but I just sell on eBay. My ID is 3 numbers 825.
Excellent. Thanks, Ben. Brian, our newest member to the crew here. Thank you so much. You've been great. Tell them where they can find you.
I'm mostly active on Instagram, BeRealCards, BeReal_cards. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. It was fun talking about it. If you ever need a collector's perspective on these things, let me know. If you hop on my Instagram, I'm not BSing about collecting. I collect the sneaker spotlights signature set for Noir for basketball. So I think I'm 4 for 4 years running ever since I started the set.
That's awesome.
Just kind of, thank you. Something to break the monotony of just collecting the same players over and over. Just gives you a chance to collect different players, or in Impeccable's instance, different wrestlers, right? So, thanks for your time. And if you guys are going to WrestleMania in LA next year, I'll be there.
Nice. I'm sure we will. So I'm Adam Gellman again. You can find me on Twitter at SC Uncensored. You can find me on Instagram at WWE Gellman. Shoot me a follow, shoot me a message, shoot me whatever you want. I am here to take all of it and reprocess it. Hopefully Twitter's still around by the time we're posting this video. But keep checking out more video content as well on Wrestling Trading Card Network here. I've been posting a lot of informational stuff around some of these things to give context from some of the things like we're discussing here today. I've got a lot of videos that are going to be coming out, giving a lot of my perspective, and others hopefully having a lot more conversations like that. So subscribe, like, do all the things that the YouTube influencers love to say. I don't do that very much, so I don't know those yet, but we're getting there. So hopefully people will keep watching these and keep having a good time. Thank you guys all for watching, and hopefully you're still with us. In the meantime, we'll sign off here, and thank you for another title match here. It's been a great time. Thanks, everyone.